Imagine if instead of Instagram selfies, people painted their trauma, surgeries, heartbreak, and messy relationships, and hung it on the wall for everyone to gawk at. That's basically what Frida Kahlo did, a century before oversharing became a lifestyle. While other painters were busy flexing their landscapes and gods in flowing robes, Frida was out here saying, "Here's me, bleeding, broken, furious, and alive. Deal with it." Frida Kahlo wasn't just an artist. She was a walking contradiction, fragile body, volcanic personality. She painted not to escape her pain, but to stab it into canvas with unapologetic honesty. Her life was a carousel of suffering, love, betrayal, and revolution. And instead of hiding it, she made it art. That's why today her face is plastered on murals, tote bags, and TikTok edits. Not because she was safe, but because she was raw. If Van Gogh detonated color and Monet bottled light, then Frida Kahlo weaponized herself. Her art was her, every scar, every heartbreak, every revolution in her head. She was the original content creator. Long before content was a thing, Frida was already a fiery, sharp-tongued teenager in Mexico City, sketching and dreaming, when fate basically threw a bus at her. Literally. At 18, she was in a horrific bus crash that left her body shattered. Broken spine, crushed pelvis, ribs snapped like dry twigs. It was the kind of accident you don't walk away from. And she never really did. For the rest of her life, Frida was in pain. Not, ouch, my back hurts, pain, but screws, surgeries, and corsets made of steel kind of pain. Most people would have folded, become a tragic side note in a family story. Frida turned her bedroom into a studio. Flat on her back, body in traction, she painted her face. Over and over. "I paint myself because I am so often alone," she said, which is a poetic way of saying, "I'm stuck in bed with a mirror, so guess who's my model today?" But here's the thing. These weren't vanity projects. No soft focus, no flattering angles. She painted herself raw, scarred, broken, bleeding, stitched together like a human experiment. She dragged her suffering into the spotlight and said, "This is me." And that's where the magic happened. Her pain didn't crush her art. It fueled it. Every brushstroke was a middle finger to fate. Every painting was proof that even when her body betrayed her, her voice never would. Enter Diego Rivera, muralist, communist, larger than life and living proof that red flags can be very attractive. Diego was 21 years older and a loose cannon. Naturally, Frida fell for him. Their relationship was, let's just say, Picasso couldn't have painted a messier picture. They adored each other. They inspired each other. They cheated on each other constantly. It was toxic. It was magnetic. And it was eternal. Even when they divorced, they got back together a year later because, of course they did. For Frida, Diego was both muse and migraine. He encouraged her to paint bigger, bolder, louder, but he also broke her heart repeatedly, including the time he had an affair with her own sister. Yikes. And what did Frida do? She didn't hide her heartbreak in a diary. She painted it. Paintings like The Two Fridas and Diego and I turned private agony into public art, exposing the wounds with brutal honesty. If Instagram existed back then, their relationship would have been the most followed train wreck on the app. But here's the thing. It wasn't just drama for drama's sake. That chaos became part of Frida's legend. Love and betrayal weren't distractions from her art. They were her art. Frida wasn't just painting her face because she liked her eyebrows. Though yes, the unibrow and faint mustache became iconic flexes of defiance. Every self-portrait was also a manifesto. She packed her work with Mexican folk art, indigenous symbols, Catholic and Aztec references, political commentary, and surreal dream logic, all at once. In a world that wanted women to stay quiet and pretty, Frida painted herself bleeding, broken, dressed in traditional Tehuana clothes, or fusing with nature. She said, "I never painted dreams. I painted my own reality." And her reality was political, personal, and painful. She was fiercely proud of being Mexican at a time when European influence dominated the art world. Her style screamed, "This is Mexico," from the colors to the symbolism. And she wasn't just nationalist, she was radical. Frida was a communist, an activist. She lived her truth loud, even when society wanted her muted. To call her art surrealism misses the point. Dali painted melting clocks. Frida painted miscarriages, surgeries, heartbreak. Her own body as battleground. She wasn't escaping reality. She was confronting it, amplifying it, daring people to look at what they'd rather ignore. Her paintings weren't just canvases. They were protest signs, confessionals, and love letters all at once. She made her suffering universal, which is why, decades later, she's a feminist icon and a cultural icon. By the 1940s, Frida's body was collapsing under the weight of everything it had endured. Dozens of surgeries, constant infections, amputations. Her health was a battlefield. She lived strapped into corsets, confined to hospital beds, often barely able to move. And yet, she refused to vanish. When doctors said, "Stay in bed," she had her bed carried into the gallery so she could attend her own exhibition. Imagine rolling up to your show literally in a hospital bed, smiling, greeting people, surrounded by your paintings. That wasn't tragedy. That was pure defiance. Her last years were marked by both pain and fire. She poured herself into political activism, marching and protesting, even in a wheelchair. Her final diary entries burned with passion, ending with the words, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." 2 weeks later, Frida Kahlo was gone. Officially, the cause was pulmonary embolism, but some suspect it was an intentional overdose. Whatever the truth, she went out the way she lived. Dramatic, unfiltered, unforgettable. Her death didn't silence her. In fact, it made her louder. The world finally caught up to what she'd been screaming all along. Pain is universal. Identity is political. And art can be the sharpest weapon of all. When Frida Kahlo died, she wasn't yet the global superstar she is today. In her lifetime, she was known mostly as Diego Rivera's eccentric wife who paints. But history had other plans. Over time, her work exploded out of Mexico, out of the art world, and into global culture. Her face became an icon, not just for her art, but for what she stood for: resilience, rebellion, authenticity. Feminists embraced her as a symbol of strength. Pop culture plastered her unibrow across posters, t-shirts, emojis, even Barbie dolls. Irony she'd probably roast us all for. And yet, beneath the commercialization, her art still cuts deep. Stand in front of the broken column or the two Fridas today, and you don't see a brand. You see a woman who turned her body into a battlefield and made beauty out of agony. You see someone who refused to look away from her own scars and dared you not to look away either. Frida Kahlo didn't just make paintings. She made herself into art. She blurred the line between life and canvas so completely that one can't exist without the other. That's why she resonates harder now than ever. In a world full of filters and curated feeds, she's a reminder that the unfiltered, the raw, the real, that's where truth lives. Frida Kahlo wasn't just an artist. She was her own revolution. And that's why her story still burns decades later.